Hi everyone, Kelly here, and today I want to talk about the books I have read the last couple months. So this will be my wrap up for July and August. It's been a while since I filmed. I'm going to try to get back in the habit. This summer has just been very busy and getting used to a new schedule with working and all that. So I'm going to try to get back in the habit of filming. I have some videos planned, so hopefully things will come out for me more regularly. I'm also trying to figure out where to film in my house. So we're trying a different thing and trying to fit in this video really quick while my husband is doing an errand. So let's see if we can get through them all. Did not read much the last couple months, like I said, because of the busyness. So I have two things that I don't have physically, so we'll talk about them first. And the title of the first one's long, so I'm gonna look at my computer for that one. So I read, or finished, because I started this during middle grade March, so way back in March, finished it in July, was The Mona Lisa Vanishes, A Legendary Painter, A Shocking Heist, and the Birth of a Global Celebrity by Nicholas Day. And this was a nonfiction middle grade book about when the Mona Lisa was stolen out of the Louvre, and after that it became a famous painting. And that's how the Mona Lisa has become so famous today, because of this theft, and then like that was advertised, and trying to find the thief and all that made the Mona Lisa more famous. And it was really interesting. The author kind of split it into one talking about Leonardo da Vinci and back when he was painting it and the story behind actually painting the painting, and then the time period when it was stolen, which now off the top of my head I can't remember when that was. So we're going back and forth between those and kind of solving the mystery of who stole the painting and then how it got back to Louvre, and also the origins of the painting. And I thought it was a really good nonfiction middle grade. Gave it 4 stars. It was the group read for middle grade March. I didn't finish it in time for the live show, and then it was due back to the library, and that's why it took me so long to finish. Not because I wasn't enjoying it. I just didn't, it happens a lot to me where I run out of time to read it from the library. The other one I don't own or have a copy of is 172 Hours on the Moon by Johan Harstad. And this one was one of those books that I kind of knew I wasn't gonna like going into it, so I given it 2 stars. It's the only one on this list that I gave less than 4 stars to, and I kind of knew I wasn't gonna like it going in from the other reviews, but everybody always talks about this book as having a big surprise ending, and I'm just a sucker. I get pulled in by hearing a surprise ending, so I wanted to know what it was. So I read it very quickly in 3 days to just find out what the ending was. And it was exactly what I had predicted from the very beginning. Basically, this is a young adult sci-fi book about the NASA's doing this big thing where they're going back to the moon, and they're going to send some teenagers with the astronauts in order to have a big publicity stunt to get more PR and more money for future trips to the moon. Not rooted in reality at all, because no one would think it's smart to send a bunch of teenagers to the moon when space travel is so dangerous. So it doesn't make any sense, but that is the premise of the book. And creepy things start to happen on the moon, so it's like a horror sci-fi. And it is all of the reveals are exactly what I guessed from the very beginning. I don't think it's very surprising at all. And I don't know if that's because this book is, several years old, that maybe by now it just is not as surprising as it was when it first came out. And I also think it just imitates a lot of horror movies from a while ago, from the 1970s or 1980s horror films. And I have watched a lot of horror films from that time period, so it might just be that is kind of my background in horror, and it very closely mimics a lot of the tropes from movies of that time. And so yeah, I didn't think it was actually that surprising, and it's horribly written. I think the writing is it is written like a 14-year-old wrote it, but instead of just being written for teenagers. So the writing was horrible, and I didn't find it as surprising, but it was really quick to read because the writing was so dumbed down. It did read very fast. Okay, now on to 4 stars that I actually enjoyed. Almost everything else I read was 4-star, and then I'll save my 5-star for last. So the next thing that I read was A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Brigid Kemmerer. This is book 2 in, now I can't think of what the series is called, But yeah, the first one was A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and I'm glad I came back to the series. So I had read A Curse So Dark and Lonely many years ago, and then I had started this one but wasn't as pulled in, so I had kind of like set aside the series. And then this year I picked back up A Curse So Dark and Lonely, enjoyed it, and wanted to keep going. And I did end up liking this. It did take me a little bit to get into it again. I think the beginning is kind of slow because even though we're following events from the last one, we're switching character viewpoints. So we're not following the same two characters as the first one. We have two different POVs, and so it's following a different, same kind of things are happening, but a different like view of the story continuing on. And I did end up liking both of the viewpoints once we got like a good like third of the way into the book, and then I was enjoying them. And the end of this made me want to like finish the trilogy up. So I think that I will finish it before the end of the year. And it's kind of just a fun, fast, young adult fantasy. So I would recommend it still, even though it's a few years old, if you're just wanting something kind of fun. And then in August, I moved more into a kind of like, not just horror, but like kind of horror, mystery, kind of really was moving towards the fall. Maybe because in Minnesota, at least where I'm at in Minnesota, northern Minnesota, weather in August is starting to move towards fall weather. So I'm just really already in the mood for fall books. So I started picking up kind of more spooky books. So the first thing I finished in August was The Haunting of Velkwood by Gwendolyn Christie. I'm not for sure how to say that. And I'm gonna put that down actually because it's pretty shiny. But it is a horror novel where there is this like whole neighborhood that is kind of like one day was surrounded by this kind of bubble of fog where nobody can see into it. Nobody has come out of the neighborhood, and it's like this whole phenomenon. They've basically just like closed everything up, and they're like, something happened here and we're going to leave it be. And there are 3 young women who were from that neighborhood, and they escaped the neighborhood right before the fog thing came over. Like they had gone to college the day before that fog appeared. And so they are the only ones that could possibly get back in the neighborhood. And so we are like, I think 20 years later, maybe 15, maybe only 10, I don't know. They're adults now. They were like, you know, college age when this happened, and now they're full-on adults. And there is like I think he's like a journalist or a scientist that wants to kind of find out what happened, what this phenomenon is, and ask those women to come back and try to get back in the neighborhood. And it is very creepy. It definitely is like kind of a study in generational trauma and how like the way we grow up affects like who we are as people in adulthood, but with a lot of creepy little horror elements. I don't think it's like over the top horror because I am not someone that can take a lot of gore or too high of horror. It's just enough of it, just kind of like creepy and metaphoric kind of thing. And it's also pretty short. Like you can see, it's not a super long book. I think it was like 240 pages. And so it read pretty quickly, and I just found it a really enjoyable read. Definitely some harder subject matter, but like still like gave me kind of that fall creepy kind of vibe that I was wanting at the time. And then next I picked up Room by Emma Donoghue. This is an older book. I mean, is this from the early 2000s or something? 2010, I guess. And I've had it for a while, and I just was like, I think I should finally read this book. I mean, it's been a movie. A lot of people have already read it. It's definitely not popular anymore because it's been around for a long time. But I just never actually read it. And I had been avoiding it because I knew that this book was from the viewpoint of a 4-year-old boy. Is that how he is? Or 5? Something around that. And I just thought that that would be kind of obnoxious. But I actually think it's a good way to view this story. This is about a young boy who grew up in captivity. So his mom had been kidnapped and is kept in like this room, and he was born there. And so he doesn't know anything about the outside world. And it's not really a thriller. It's actually more just about them living their lives and how she is really protecting him from all the bad things about the situation, and really just trying to give him as normal of a childhood as possible in these circumstances and their relationship with each other. And so there is like some really heartwarming moments, but we as adults like viewing the story, we know what's like really happening, where he is just living his childhood. And so I actually think it was smart for her to put it from the boy's perspective. And though at the beginning it was a little hard to get into because it is a 4-year-old perspective, I got used to it, and I think it was the smart idea, so it didn't become too intense and really focused on that interpersonal relationship. So I gave it 4 stars, and I'm glad that I finally read this. And I have a couple other Emma Donoghue books. Like, I think I have The Pool of the Stars right there. So now I'm more interested in picking that one up. And then next, to continue my creepy vibe, I went with these library books are so shiny. What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. That's the second book in this, I think it's called the Sworn Soldier series. I don't know if it's just gonna be a duology or a third one will be coming out. I really love the characters in this book. Easton is our main character who was a soldier. And in the first one, the first one is a retelling of the fall of the House of Usher, and it's very like got that gothic, very much has the feel of that original short story, Poe story, where this one is its own story for as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if there is like anything that T. Kingfisher is pulling from, but it's still following Easton having another experience that is creepy, but it's more about the characters, like about Easton and dealing with their PTSD from the war. And I also just really love the other characters, the new characters that are introduced in this, the like how there's I don't want to call her a maid. She like, whatever, she takes care of the house and like cooks and cleans for Easton and her son. I really enjoy them as the new characters. These are short novellas, but yeah, I really enjoyed that one again, but it's not as creepy as the first book in my opinion, and the ending was anticlimactic, so I couldn't give it 5 stars like the first book, but I still enjoyed T. Kingfisher's writing. I still enjoyed kind of like the vibe she was going for in the book and the characters, so I still gave it 4 stars. All right, and then the last one I want to talk to you about is my 5-star, and that was Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz, and I just really love this book. Sorry if you hear noises, that's my daughter, I think, doing like gymnastics in the other room. But yeah, so this is a book within a book, like a murder mystery inside of a murder mystery. And I thought at first I wasn't gonna like that, and the fact that it was like this long, because usually I don't like a 500-page murder mystery book, but it's 2 murder mysteries in one, so they really don't feel that long because we are getting an entire book inside this. So it's not like we're getting snippets, we are getting the entire book within the book. So the framing of this is that we are following the editor of this murder mystery. It's a whole series, and this is like the last book in the series. And so it just starts off like her introducing that she's about to read the book and edit it. And then we get like most of the book that she's editing. And then we go back to following the editor and what's happening in the current time period with the like author that is writing that book. And we follow that whole thing before we can get back and solve the murder mystery. So there is like both 2 stories fully. We just kind of like interrupt one. But I just thought that was super interesting. I actually really enjoyed the book that was within it, like the little murder mystery that was inside of it, because it's taking place in like the 1950s, and then like it has very Agatha Christie feeling, and then the overall frame is like current day England, and kind of looking into a lot about like how murder mystery series are written and all that, and then solving like a current mystery based off of what was happening in that book. So it's kind of like they're related, the book and the current day. I'm not really describing this very well because it's kind of complicated a little bit, but not when you're reading it. Like, it makes sense when you're reading it. And I really loved it. And I want to read more by Anthony Horowitz because I really enjoyed the way he framed this. I know there's a sequel to this book, and I'm not so sure I want to read the sequel because I've heard that it's pretty much the same kind of shtick, that it's another like book within a book, which worked really well for this one, but I don't know if I want to read another one of those. But Anthony Horowitz has a different series that other than this one. This is the Susan Ryland series. He has another one that I can't remember what it's called. So I might read that series instead of continuing with this one because I'm just not sure that I need another version of this exact thing. But I really enjoyed this one, gave it 5 stars. So those were it. Those were all the books I read the last couple months. Not a lot, but mostly good quality except for that one that I knew I wasn't gonna like. I need to stop like being curious about the ending of books. Maybe I should just look up the ending when I hear, oh, big surprise ending. But I'm always like hoping that maybe I will be enjoying it even if others say the writing is bad, but I should have known. but it's fine. It only took me, like I said, a couple days to read it. It read pretty fast. But everything else was 4 stars or my 5-star. Found an author that I really want to read more of. Like I definitely want to check out more Anthony Horowitz. And that's it for me. I will see you next time. Bye.